I'm by no means a professional. Like, I mean, I'm a professional, but like not like there yet when it comes to like expert status. I'm still relatively new when it comes to the safety professional tag. So a little bit over 4.5 years. And I've been presenting for some safety councils and for National Safety Council and those places around there. Because again, when someone new like me can come in, maybe they can try to be another set of eyes to someone who's maybe been in this profession for 20 or 30 years and try to maybe bring some new stuff to the table. So speaking of that, let me see if I can't screw this up by sharing my screen. That'll prove how technologically savvy I am, technological savvy. So let's see here, give this a whirl. All right, so can we see my screen?
Yep, you got it. We're good to go.
Awesome. And I've got some notes sprinkled in there. So can you see my notes? That's always embarrassing when you can see notes. Awesome. Okay. So just in case, I'm going to try to get through this because it's almost lunchtime for everyone. You might actually, speaking of lunch, I'm in a conference room right now in our engineering building because all of our other rooms are taken. And there's a microwave in here. So if throughout this conversation you hear like beeping and stuff, everything's safe. No one's hurt. It's just the microwave going off with probably Hot Pockets or something in it. So again, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for everyone for having me. And let's get started here. So my presentation. So you're in charge of safety. Now what? So again, as long as maybe we can take one thing away from this, that's all I'm happy about. So who's maybe in this call or who's in this room, who's watching this right now, who thinks I didn't choose safety, safety chose me? So, you know, some of us maybe went to school for this. Some of us maybe have this in our DNA where we wanted to do the safety professional, but honestly, a lot of us were probably in another position and someone said, hey, we need a safety manager. You go do that too. You know, it's time to wear another hat for you. So again, without knowing and without being able to read the room, I was in a position of customer service for a long time, and then the opportunity opened for a safety gig, and I thought it would be an awesome opportunity, not only a challenge for myself, but it would be personal. It would be something where I could maybe work with the people that I've worked with for 11 years prior in a customer service role. Now I can get to know people, and that's a huge part of safety. You can know all the ins and outs of safety. You can know the technological stuff. You can know everything that do with standards and rules and OSHA compliance, everything. But if you're really good, or at least pride yourself on being a people first person, this job can be done in a way where people will respect you. They'll buy in. They'll be loyal. They'll do everything they can to keep themselves and their coworkers safe as well. So there's a huge psychology piece to it. And I think that's where I've gotten a lot of my success here, and I'm hopefully can pass some of that along. So do not be taken away with this photo. It's, you know, it's funny, but there's a reason why I'm showing it here. And again, I'm not going to bore you too much. But again, never intended to be a safety professional. This actual photo was taken years before I took the role as a safety manager, and I'll kind of explain that here in a second. So again, before we cover that, just a little bit about where I work, and maybe a lot of the people on this call kind of have the same sort of thing. I work for a water utility. We've got over 100 full-time employees. We've got a distribution department, which is basically construction. We've got a maintenance department, operations when it comes to water quality and you know, making the water, the administrative piece where it's got customer service reps who are working at their desk all day. We've got a lot of safety sensitive tasks that we complete on a regular basis: electrical work, trenching and excavation, confined space, climbing. We are basically under the general industry and construction standards. So again, we've only got 100 people, but we've got our feet, fingers, toes, everything in something. And every day we're doing a safety sensitive task that can be very dangerous and could lead to an injury. So again, here's a couple pictures of some of the stuff that we are doing traffic control. This is not, we actually have contracted out climbing water towers. And again, that's one thing that having a full-time safety manager can do is, yeah, for 30 years prior, we climbed the water towers. We went up there, we fixed the pieces that needed fixed, the level, the SCADA systems, all that. But now we've decided we're going to contract that out because we just don't want to have that responsibility. Every couple of years we do have someone come out and they will check our ladders and check our, platforms and stuff on these towers to make sure they're safe for climbing, but it's more for the contractor's sake. So again, yes, seriously, I can't take this guy serious. He's got little shorts on and a fanny pack and all that sort of stuff. But again, there's a reason why I'm showing you this. So we've always had a formal compliant safety program. We had a gentleman who did, again, compliance, environmental, many hats, but after he retired, there was definitely a need for a safety manager. So I thought, I'm going to try this. Again, it's personal. You can help the employees that you've worked with for 11, 5 years, no matter what the years are, you can make a huge difference for these folks on a personal level. So thinking back to that, when I was doing the interviewing and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, I have no safety experience except for attending safety meetings. And yes, attending a safety meeting is not the most fun thing in the world. Sometimes, and I'll use me as an example, when I would go to a safety meeting, I'd have to learn about lockout tagout, or I'd have to learn about arc flash or respirator fit testing. And I'm like, why? Number one, am I learning about this? But number two, how is this going to affect me? It's going to affect maybe the first 15 or 20% of our workforce. But then we were like, you know what? As an admin building, let's start making our own safety presentations in-house that are going to affect us. Let's talk about slips, trips, and falls. Let's talk about bicycle safety where, although we're not the ones riding the bikes, we're the ones driving on these rural roads where we see bicyclists out in the world, and we, maybe it's not a workplace thing, but you wanted to try to tailor some of those safety trainings to the folks who were actually learning at the time. So what we did was, again, created our own, and these are a couple examples. Usually I have like old-timey music playing in the background, but I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But just kind of quickly, I'm going to go through some of the trainings that we did. We had Let's Play, is this a slip, trip, or fall? And we would show examples of people walking downstairs with heavy loads. We'd show examples of people, walking through the workplace with reading a magazine or eating lunch and not paying attention. We talk about shredder safety. We talk about all that sort of stuff. And it was a fun way. And again, fun's the huge word here. It was a fun way to try to get people engaged, to try to be interactive. You can make safety funny. You can make it fun. And that's sometimes going to be the way that you can draw people in and get them to think about it and say, you know what? 2 years ago, I saw this presentation about this bicycle safety. And although maybe it wasn't like 100% something that's going to affect me or make me safer, it was something I'm going to remember and take away from it. So we created this Chance Legstrong guy, which, Lance Armstrong, but we made a fun little presentation about bicycle safety. And I missed that beard. It was not gray at all. And now it's fully gray. But anyway, we tried to make it fun. So again, that was the reason why I wanted to show those slides and why I'm dressed like that, because I rode a bicycle down the hill and they saw me coming in, and you try to make it fun and engaging. So once you have the job, once they say, hey, you're now the safety professional here, you're now in charge of people safety and training and arming them with the knowledge and arming them with the equipment and everything necessary, where do you start? So, you ask yourself first, like, okay, what have I done or what have they done to me? Why are there so many rules? These OSHA books, the 1926 and, the general industry or maritime, whatever you are, why are they thousands of pages long? The saying is they're written in blood because people have gotten injured, people have died. And these are the reasons why safety is a thing, because again, people have gotten hurt before. Am I actually responsible for people now? Like, okay, I could talk to customers all day long. I have no connection with them, but now I've got to have a connection with 100 people, 200 people, 500 people, 20 people, whatever it is. That's a huge responsibility. And then really everything's in binders. So where to start? And again, this is only a snapshot really of where you can start, but these are just small little things that I've kind of taken away from the folks out there, from the Ken Belchers, from the folks out there at the BWC that I've learned from in the past and worked with in the past. So the first thing you should really do, and the first thing that I really did when I first came in, is assess the workplace. So, whenever taking over any sort of job, and in this case, it's safety, it's imperative that you conduct an initial hazard assessment. You've got to break down all the departments, all the facilities, all the buildings, the crews, try to pinpoint the most hazardous tasks and start there. You want to analyze and prioritize the results. So you want to communicate those findings to the management, because if you don't act on what you found, where are you at? What good is it going to do? So a good thing to do is create a punch list. What can be fixed right now? What needs to go on the budget? Do we even have a safety budget? Are we even a company big enough that can have a safety budget? And then, can some of the hazards be mitigated with training alone? So you've got the hierarchy of controls, you've got your elimination and substitution and admin and PPE. You want to try to determine what can be done with purchasing something or budgeting something, and maybe something that can be done with just simple training that costs you nothing other than man hours. You want to review your OSHA data history for maybe the last 5 or 10 years. What are some of the trends? What types of injuries are you seeing? Is it due to equipment that we're not supplying? Is it due to faulty equipment? Is it due to a lack of training? Is it maybe supervisors? Maybe the supervisors have been in a role for 10, 20, 30 years where they've just gotten complacent, and we've always done it. And everyone who understands this quote is going to hate it. Do it the way we've always done it. That's one of the hardest parts about a position like this, is because people are just stuck in their ways. So you want to try to get past that, try to create that new sense of safety and why we're here and why we have a position like this. So again, what jobs and tasks are being performed? What are the most safety sensitive? Take an inventory of your PPE, the equipment. Do we have enough? Are we providing everything they need when it comes to safety? Don't leave any stone unturned. This definitely takes time, and still 5 years into this job, I'm still finding areas that we can just say, hey, we need to improve this. It's not an overnight thing. People on this call might say it's not a 10-year thing. It's not a 20-year thing. It takes time. It's always evolving. And that's just something you have to understand, but you have to try to just do your best. Conduct walkthroughs. Again, I told you earlier, this is the main thing, the best thing that has happened to me, but it's the most important thing. They build trust. You can have a checklist, you can have assessments and JSAs and all that sort of stuff. That's wonderful. But if you're not out there showing up and just saying hi, you don't have to go out and say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing, you're not wearing your hard hat. You can go out and say, hey, how's your family? How is life? And that's just one of those things where, again, you can try to balance personal and business, but it is a huge part. Make it a point to walk the floors, visit the job sites, again, chat with the workers. Something as simple as how about that game the other night? That makes a huge impression. And again, it creates that buy-in, it creates trust, it creates loyalty, because they do feel like, hey, this person's a real person. He's not here with some checklist and some, grind to axe or axe to grind, whatever the term is. He's here for the right reasons. They're the ones doing the jobs. So you want to get their input, their honest input, because that's critical to the success of your program. Although you'd love to be everywhere at once, like I'd love to have 30 of me as a safety professional just to be able to watch everyone. But at the same time, you can't micromanage people. So you have to be able to trust supervisors. They should be out there as well, communicating, demonstrating safety to their staff. If they're not seen wearing a hard hat, why on earth would their employees want to wear a hard hat? It's just, you have to own it. You have to live it. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe you. They're not going to trust you. If a frontline employee, again, sees them walk through the shop without safety glasses, what kind of example is that going to set? No one should ever fear the safety person. Again, this is from a video that we made, like a welcome to DelCo video. You don't have to be an extrovert to accomplish this. You don't have, I'm honestly, when I go home tonight, I'm going to be terribly tired and just worn out from this presentation, because I'm a pretty big introvert. but the job doesn't allow me to do that. So I kind of have to fight through it. And I think over time, you become more comfortable. And when you get to be comfortable with the people that you work with, then that's going to make it a lot easier. You want people to report unsafe environments or behavior or equipment. It's not the easiest conversation to have, especially for the folks reporting it. But if we're not able to see it and they're willing to talk about it, that is huge. You can see when I come home, and again, when my wife sees me with like dirt on my pants or like something that I did on a job site, she's like, "Oh my gosh, like you're the coolest kid, person at DelCo." If my kids see it, "Oh my gosh, Billy went on a job site today." Yeah, sure. It makes me look like a rock star to my family, but at the same time, just think about the impact it's having with the folks that are out there on those sites. This is something I learned a couple of years ago from a safety congress. I know everyone's busy, but try to make it a point to focus on maybe one person a week, or maybe 2 people every week, or 2 people a month. I have a name of every employee in this little jar. I reset it every single year. And on just a given day, a random day, I'll pull a name out and I will focus on them, even if it's for 5 minutes. I'll call them on the phone. I'll show up to where they're at. I'll shadow them for maybe a couple hours. I'll go visit a storeroom. Maybe we'll do a JSA. Maybe I'll buy them a breakfast sandwich or whatever it is, because again, you want to build that trust. Not everyone has a budget to be able to do that. But again, if you make it a point to focus on that person or 2 every once in a while, that's going to be huge. And again, psychology is massive when it comes to safety. You're going to want to create and maybe at least utilize checklists. Again, documentation is giant. You just have to do it when it comes to safety. And again, if you're not documenting it, you have an OSHA or a BWC come in and they ask you for records, or, how often are you going out on the job sites? If you can show them something, it's just going to make, number one, your life easier. But number 2, you use it internally. You can use it for training. You can do whatever you want with that paperwork. It's only going to help because it's going to help build that program. This is something we created, which is a job hazard evaluation for every employee. Basically, it's just kind of got the overview of their job and some of the general directives they do, but you can actually tailor it where you focus on the body and the lungs and the head and the feet and all that sort of stuff with injuries when it comes to PPE. So, what safety sensitive tasks are they performing? What are the potential bodily risks? Can the hazard be controlled with PPE? If so, are we providing it? Maybe there's not something on this list that we're providing, and they can give you some feedback on something that we can add as well. Another checklist we created was something like a mock OSHA inspection. So you've got the general rules and the standards out there when it comes to trench safety. Go out there on a job site. No one has to know you're really doing it, as you can just keep it in your vehicle. Go out there, visually watch what's going on, and then go back and fill out a checklist if you want. But also you can take that checklist and say, "Hey, let's take a 5-minute time out here. Let's talk about some of the stuff we're doing great. Let's talk about some of the stuff maybe we're not doing great," because again, they'll be able to remember that and say, "Hey, yes, there's the personal side. This guy asked me about my family and all that sort of stuff, but also he's out here to do a job." And this sort of feedback and this sort of exercise you can do with the folks out there is only going to help. Document who you went out with, who you saw, what department it was. Was there a PPE assessment done for them? Anything like that. Again, documentation is huge. Conduct a safety survey. In the 4.5 years I've been doing this, we've done 2. We did a baseline back in 2018, and then we did one last year just to kind of see if we've improved. Safety surveys are huge because it does provide a snapshot of the current state of your safety program. We did one again in 2018. We probably only had about like 52 of our 100 people fill it out. And then we did one this year or last year, just a couple months ago, and we had 99% of our people do it. So I think it's one of those things where, as safety evolved for us, we've gotten more buy-in and we've had more people willing to share a couple minutes of their day. But it helps you determine what's working, what's not. Again, are we providing what they need? It really gives a critical look as to how the employees are feeling. But it also, you want to encourage feedback. ideas, concerns, questions, all that good stuff, because again, their opinion does truly make a difference. And then, as we talked about, you have to act on the results. So, we were able to focus on enforcement in our 2018 survey, because again, when I took over, we really never had a full-time safety presence. Well, without a full-time safety presence, who's really enforcing the safety rules? Who's really out there holding people accountable? So when we did a safety survey last year, we had a way better number for enforcement because we took time to focus on it and we acted on it. So this is just kind of a screenshot of one of our last survey results. Utilize the BWC in the agencies. And again, the folks who are on this call from the BWC, you know how important you are. You know that every single day you wake up, you know you're going to help someone for the right reason. You're going to be there to help if they have questions. And if you don't have the answer to that question, you are going to do everything you possibly can to get that answer. You're going to ask some of your associates, you're going to get online, you're going to look through a book, whatever it is. You have to utilize the BWC, because I fully took advantage of them. And I can't wait till they have in-person classes for training again. But I lived there for the first couple of years of my existence in this position, because again, you can network if you really like that sort of thing, but you can just learn and you're hands-on, you're visually seeing it rather than having to maybe be on a virtual call like this where maybe it's hard to really pay attention. But again, it increases your knowledge and experience. And again, I know all of us have a budget. So if you're on this call, you're paying into that BWC and you get free training when they have it available. They'll come on site, they'll do it virtually, whatever the case is, reach out to them and take advantage of it. But not only the BWC, there are so many agencies out there, and I'll kind of get to that pretty quickly here, but they provided a third of our staff with OSHA 10 certification training over a 4-week period, which was awesome. But again, this only enhances our program because we're having more people that are safety sensitive now, and they're thinking about safety due to an OSHA certification. We have the Ohio Highway Patrol come out and provided a distracted defensive driving education every year. It's a great opportunity to talk and have Q&As with the officers. We had the CDL folks come out and talk to us about enforcement, because we do have folks that are, pulling trailers and pulling equipment. We have Ohio 811 come out and they'll talk about utility safety, because that's something that we deal with on a daily basis. We had an active shooter training, which unfortunately is not a fun topic. It's a very somber topic, but that's kind of the way the world is right now. So if you can train or at least educate those folks who are on the front lines in an office setting, help them better protect themselves, help them get away in the event of an active shooter. Who do they call? Who do they contact? Can they barricade themselves? So we were able to do a fun little training, which again, I say fun, but it really was, where we were able to be in a room together with the officers and barricade ourselves. And they had Nerf guns and we had tennis balls, and they made it fun and memorable, because again, sometimes that's the best way to remember training that you might have learned. So here's just a quick little. Come on, let's go. So I'm not sure if you could hear any sound there, but the guy was go, go, go. And it was chaotic, but it was very enlightening, and it did, stick with our folks. And we were able to kind of do another little couple things there when it comes to protecting our folks and communication and stuff. So it helped. Last October, we enrolled in the OSHA Sharp program. And again, that's not something that everyone just voluntarily does. Like, oh yeah, OSHA, come on out here and take a look at our stuff and tell us what we're doing wrong. That's not why we did it. I think a huge part of getting yourself involved with something like this is you are doing it for the right reasons. You want to be ready in the event in the future. If you do have an event in OSHA or someone has to come out, but number two, you're arming yourself with the best possible best practices and compliancy. Now you're being proactive rather than reactive, and that's huge in the safety field. So again, whether you're 100% compliant or could use some improvement, it never hurts to bring in another set of eyes, especially someone who is from the BWC or OSHA. They'll evaluate your program, your policies, your facilities. They'll help you become the best and most safe version of yourself. And again, this does not happen overnight. We're still in this process. We've gotten over one of the biggest hurdles, which was just mitigating any of the stuff that he found. But now we're working on a checklist to try to get OSHA Sharp certified. And then once we're at one of our locations, we'll keep moving on until we get all of our locations. So again, we're creating the most safe version of ourselves. So another huge part, make sure you join councils and committees. Again, I'm lucky enough to be able to present. I'm lucky enough to be able to meet new people. This opportunity today, huge example of why councils and committees are important and where they can get you. There are safety councils throughout the state. This is easily the furthest from home that I've been invited to speak with. So again, amazing opportunity. But again, not only for networking, but it's great when it comes to being able to see new topics every month. It allows people maybe to gain some more confidence and more knowledge in what they're doing, create some impactful relationships. And again, you can call a fellow safety professional you met at any of these, whether it's Safety Congress or any of these councils, and get their advice, or maybe be available if they have questions or need advice. There's a lot of associations out there that are affiliated with your trade. We're in the water business, so we deal with the AWWA, which is the Water Works Association. We're able to kind of go and help with their safety utility logbook that they do every year when it comes to safety. Maybe we can help add to that. I'm not a huge reader, and that's not a good thing when you're a safety guy, but I get the job done. But again, it's a great opportunity to maybe offer some of the knowledge you have to someone else so they can document it and share it with the rest of the state or the country or whomever's going to see that sort of stuff. The American Society of Safety Professionals, it's a huge resource when it comes to safety material. They've also got monthly chapter meetings in your area where you can network and get to know people and get new ideas and topics. Educate yourself and don't stop. So again, when I took this role, I had no safety experience from a book standpoint. So I went to school and I'm almost at my bachelor's degree for occupational safety and health, which is wonderful. I think a lot of the folks who might be on this call or work at the BWC, at least that I've met, have gone to the same school that I went to, where it's an online opportunity where you can go and you can, basically educate yourself on your own pace. It's not a plug by all means, but when I attended my first safety congress, this Columbia Southern University had a booth, and it was one of those opportunities where, yes, I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got my new job that I'm trying to learn, but I was able to focus on my learning and schooling at the same time, because a lot of the stuff that I was learning was going towards what I was actually doing on a day-to-day basis. So again, it doesn't have to be this school by all means, but there are so many schools out there, especially from the virtual side, where you can get some online education or in-person education and a occupational safety and health degree. But other than that, though, obviously the internet is the greatest thing in the world, where you can find anything that you possibly need. But in addition to schooling, you can get magazines delivered to you. You can get online and look at magazines. Obviously, you want to be, beware of the bogus publication companies out there that say, oh, here's a free trial of your safety magazine. And then 2 months later, you get a bill for $200, which, yes, that happened to me. Super naive Billy taking this role. Oh my gosh, free magazines? Heck yeah, I'll take them. And then, yeah, sorry, I have to pay $200. Totally fought it, didn't have to do it, but just beware that, with anything out there, no one's really truly trying to do something for free for you. So, but again, this is where the BWC Learning Center is amazing. They offer the training where you can do that and not have to worry about getting ripped off, because again, it is free. Just a couple examples of magazines out there. OSHA, the website's a huge, they've got everything you need when it comes to updated standards, all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure many of you have gotten on the OSHA website if you're in this role. Another fun thing for me, okay, I think it's like 1A is is going out there in the world and showing up on these job sites and observations. But I think 1B, when it comes to something that's most important, is creating campaigns and creating initiatives, because again, this is where you get that buy-in, you get that support from not only your employees and your frontline, but the C-suite, the general managers, the board of directors, whatever is above you or managing you or keeping you afloat and keeping you getting a paycheck. These are the folks that are going to make a huge difference with as well. So what we did is we just, every once in a while, we'll post it through our digital signage, or we'll send an email where we're talking about just random things. What is fall protection? You know, again, I used to answer phones. I had no idea what fall protection was. I had no idea what lockout tagout was. So if you can kind of teach some of our folks who might not be doing this on a daily basis, if they can maybe learn a thing or two and see some pictures and understand it a little bit more, it's huge. So that's kind of what we try to do every once in a while. We created this little campaign called Check Your Six, which is just a little cheat sheet for the folks that are out there doing trenching and excavation jobs. It's basically, you know, when the OSHA came out with the National Emphasis Program on trenching and excavation safety, this was a great way that we could kind of pigeon-tail on that and get people involved and try to really focus on, yes, I do need to have a competent person on site. Yes, here's how many feet of depth that the trench has to be before there's an exit ramp or a point of egress. So that's just one of those things. You can make it about health too. It doesn't all have to be about safety. Health is important. So again, you know, we created this Movember where we had folks in our company grow mustaches. It boosts morale, it boosts rapport for coworkers, it encourages team building, but it also brings attention to serious subjects, because again, if you get folks in your workplace that are getting sick or unhealthy, they're not going to be at work. And then you're going to have to replace them, which is going to cost more money. It's going to cost more manpower. And if more people are trying to do one person's job and stressing themselves out from a mental standpoint or from a physical standpoint, that's only going to be an opportunity for someone to get injured. So you really have to think about the whole piece. It's not always physical safety. It can always be mental and wellness safety as well. One day we were driving to school, dropping the kids off, and they were playing this Pokemon Go game. So I thought, you know what, we're going to do a safety scavenger hunt, kind of like Pokemon Go, where they're going to have to go around our campus and we're going to want to try to find our AED machines or our fire extinguishers. You know, are you CPR certified? Just again, try to make safety fun. I think we gave $10 gift cards to the folks who actually, you know, supplied answers for this and tried to participate in this. So it was a really good experience to get people involved. Promoting safety achievements, maybe this is 1B instead of 1A and 1C. I've got a lot of ones because these are super important to me, but promoting your achievements, promoting your employees. Who does not like to feel like they achieved something? Who doesn't like to be recognized for something that they did? Even if it's something that they should do anyway, sometimes the simplest of things by saying, you know what, John, you did an amazing job out there by getting your folks involved and making sure that they had their eyeglasses on and their safety glasses on when they were cutting that pipe. Like sometimes just the smallest of achievements or recognitions can go a long, long way, because again, to you, it might not be that important because it should be done anyway, but to them, it's giant. So we sometimes will post these caught being safe. So you want to recognize them for the good, because a lot of people do focus on the negatives, not just in safety, but in the world. So you want to try to promote your positives more than your negatives. Again, because again, 100 people are going to see the positive rather than, you know, not. So you want everyone to see it, not just the folks who are doing the good stuff. So these are just a couple examples of folks when it comes to getting caught being safe. This one's kind of funny because we had a microwave fire. It was actually a microwave that was on recall that we didn't know. And it automatically just started one day and caught on fire, which that's amazing, right? So we had someone go in, and this was literally maybe 2 weeks after our annual fire extinguisher training. And they went in, grabbed the fire extinguisher, made the announcement where, you know, there was a fire so people could actually evacuate, and they used the fire extinguisher to put out the fire. So what an amazing example of putting safety into practice And it was something that we definitely need to recognize, because again, there's a reason why we're doing these safety trainings. There's a reason why we're talking about arc flash or lockout tag out or respirator fit testing, whatever you want to talk about, bloodborne pathogens being the most. If there's anyone on this call that is into bloodborne pathogens, I'm sorry for this comment, but it is a very boring subject. It's important, but it's just not the most fun thing to talk about. So again, if you can try to make safety fun, and by showing why we do these trainings, it's very, very good. We created a safety champion, and I think I didn't make this top photo pop up later, so it's kind of covering this, but it's more of an employee based thing where they have to recognize and they have to put in for a vote, but it's not an every month thing because you don't want to water it down. But we have a safety champion where we've got a legit safety champion, like a wrestling belt, and it's got this logo on the front here, which is kind of fun, kind of funny, kind of campy, but it is passed around to the next person who is awarded safety champion. So it's an employee run. They have to be the ones to recognize someone and get it voted upon, and someone gets to carry that around. And again, as funny as it is, we've had people almost like fight each other for that belt because they want to have that safety champion belt. Now, are you really doing yourself a service if people are fighting over a belt? No, it's not very safe, sure, but it's just one of those things where I think to some people, something like that is really important. We created an annual occupational safety and health report. It gives a snapshot for the folks at your board, your general managers, your supervisors, as to what you've been doing for the last year. It's not you personally as that safety person, but it's recognizing, again, the safety and health accomplishments, the new equipment maybe we've introduced, notable improvements, the OSHA data when it comes to injuries, lost time, your goals for the future. It's a good, easy, quick way to give that snapshot. And these are just some of the last couple of years. You can recognize maybe your safety committee, your safety team for your company. Hopefully everyone on this call, your workplace maybe has a safety team or a safety committee. If you don't, definitely think about doing that. I'm going to give a plug. There's a woman at the BWC. Maybe Ken does this as well. Maybe David does this as well. But Lisa Houston, she just did a presentation a couple weeks ago at a ORWA conference where she talked about a safety team. So again, BWC can help you with that if you don't have one. We made a fun poster. Don't show this to anyone. I know you're recording this, but if Nicolas Cage knows that I edited him and holding our safety book, I'll probably get in a lot of trouble. But again, funny, fun, trying to put safety on the forefront where people are actually talking about it and paying attention to it. These are just some of the pages that we have in our annual report. Here's some of the goal pages, kind of what you can do for the future. We're almost done here. So I know, again, I talked about trying to be done before lunch, but we're almost done, I promise. Employee onboarding. It does not have to be new employees. It can definitely be current employees that have been there for 5, 10, 20 years. We can all learn something new, but we can also relearn something. We can have those refreshers. It's just critical. So you want to make a list of the training your company needs, as well as this training your company will benefit from. So OSHA has their list of required training. So you definitely want to have that, but you also want to have that training that just individual departments would benefit from, because again, talked about it earlier, you want to do something that's tailored, that's relevant to those folks that are working out there, but you also want to try to change it up every single year. So these are some of the examples of training, again, that we've done over the past. HAZCOM for folks that are working with chemicals, trenching excavation, Ohio 811, heat stress, active shooter, slips, trips, and falls, job safety analysis. Again, you want to just try to create that plan every year where you're training your folks and staying compliant. This is a list of other trainings that we do. The last date we did it, is it required? What departments are going to get it? Just an easy way to break down so you can follow it and make sure, again, you're doing the right thing from a compliance standpoint. You want to create an orientation maybe for the folks coming in. Sometimes PowerPoints are great. Sometimes PowerPoints are boring. If you think mine's boring right now, that's a perfect example as to why maybe you could try to shake it up a bit. But we created a fun little 5-minute welcome to DelCo video. that just shows people out there on the job sites what they're doing, what safety sensitive stuff they're doing. So the folk that's sitting there that's new to this business can watch that video and say, okay, I'm in distribution, so I'm going to be out there working on a backhoe one day. I'm going to be out there digging a trench. I'm going to be out there doing this or that. And again, it's going to be more relevant to them, something more memorable. And it also, helps with that retention. Make safety fun. This is part of my presentation and the most important part of this presentation. You want to try to, again, create that retention, that engagement, that interaction, because if people are just sitting there twiddling their thumbs and not paying attention, what good is safety going to do? Yes, the OSHA is going to come in and say, okay, you did provide that training, good job, but did someone actually learn something from it? And you hope with these fun trainings that people do. We do a safety Jeopardy twice a year, which covers the last 6 months of our training topics. You can, again, make that fun by having memes and GIFs or GIFs, however you want to say it. You can do quizzes where you can talk about, is this a trench or an excavation or both? And you can show random pictures and they can try to determine if that's a trench or an excavation or both. You can do a pin the PPE on the worker, which we did. And each piece of PPE actually shows like the general standard and what it is and why you have it and where you wear it and all that good stuff. Because again, it does create that fun aspect. Yes, we give safety boots to our folks every year. That's one thing, but how can we make even something like that more fun? Well, on a yearly basis, we started last year, we have the Granger Bootmobile come out and we'll do a food truck, or we'll have lunch catered where our folks will come in, they'll step up into the Bootmobile and get a pair of boots, try them on, be very comfortable, maybe more comfortable than they would have been if they didn't try these boots on. And again, a comfortable worker is a happy worker, is a safer worker. And that's why we do something simple like that. So remember this guy here, as we talked about earlier, he felt like the weight of the world was on him. Was safety too much? Was this the right decision? Again, I enjoyed customer service. I was good at it. But as time goes on, like with anything new, you're going to become way more comfortable. You're going to gain more experience. You're going to make your own decisions, and you're going to put your own stamp on a program. So being a safety guy or girl or a professional, whatever you want to say, it has its ups and downs. There's the triumphs, and unfortunately, sometimes there's going to be the bad part, the tragedy. There's going to be trial and error. But through all of that, this has definitely, for myself at least, been the best, most rewarding experience because I'm able to have the opportunity to serve our workforce. I have the opportunity to serve our community. I have the opportunity to do presentations like this and talk to people. There are definitely sleepless nights for sure, because again, you care about the people you work with. You get that just, they're like family. So as much as your responsibility is to train them and to keep them safe and arm them with all the experience and tools necessary, you want to make sure that you send them home the same way they arrived. And again, this job's not for everyone, even if you weren't chosen to do this, but that's what makes it more special. So yes, this is rewarding. I'm definitely making a difference. They're buying in, hopefully. And, now I can say that this is my calling because again, it's service. So with that, I thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, David. Thank you everyone on this call for having me. And I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm happy to maybe answer any questions, or I can provide this PowerPoint for the future if anyone wants to see it. But again, I appreciate it very, very much.
Well, thank you so much. And, as far as PowerPoints go, I would say yours was very entertaining. So kudos.
Thanks.
All right. Are there any questions for Billy? Feel free to jump in, or you can drop them into the chat. Totally up to you. Okay. I will give you all a couple minutes if you're thinking about questions, because I inadvertently skipped Dave before I introduced our speaker. So I'm sorry, Dave. Please don't take it personal. Now you have some talking points from the beginning.
All right.
So please share.
Yeah, only a couple of things that with the employee service specialist, Amber McTaggart, who covers the area, If you haven't done so, at least on an annual basis, I would contact her, see if there's anything that you may need in regards to rebates, discounts, and programs. Kind of stay on point. ISSP program for private companies are coming to a close here June 30th. And so if you need virtual training, there's some that are still online through the month of June. I think that's the end of the last one's going to be the 29th and 30th. And then also for the public employers, it'll be December 31st. And if you need anything in regards to on-site service, we're allowed to be out in the field now. And that would also include on-site training. And so if you've been pinged by me to come out, keep that on the forefront between now and the remainder of this year. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
And Billy, I got to say, you ended your presentation with a microwave beep. It was very well done.
Yeah, Carol knew what she was doing, and she said I was going to totally try to ruin your presentation, and she tried, but she didn't. So
I thought it was a nice accent to the end. It was very perfect.
Yeah, that's good. And again, Sarah, thank you for having me, and David and Ken, thanks for everything you do for the BWC and for everyone in the community. So I appreciate everyone.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. Billy, if you would send your presentation, I'll just kind of hold on to it. I can always link it in our next safety newsletter that'll go out in June, so you can access it. Sorry, guys, I can't talk today. Not sure what's happening. You can access it if you would like. We'll also link the recording to this as well. Please don't share it widely. We don't want Billy to get in trouble for his Nicolas Cage ripoff of the picture. But we'll get that out to you. And just remember, our next meeting is June 2nd. If you want to attend in person, let me know, so I make sure we have room for you so you can be a live audience for Bruce. Otherwise, everybody have a fantastic day, and thank you again. Bye, everybody.
Be safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sarah.